Data's been a big theme here throughout the day, and we've touched a little bit with Coke on creativity. What's happening now in the agency world is lots of different models. You've heard about the Omnicom McDonald's model that we talked about earlier. Not only are there different fee structures, but they're also trying to put creative in. Someone very clever who's been very clever at putting this together. Actually, Kasha Cacy has put together content in with media at Universal McCann, and she's going to tell us a little bit about it. Kasha Cacy is the CEO of UM, and she actually helped them win the US Postal Service business, a big piece of business, and Hershey's, a bigger piece of business, and she's one of the most accomplished folks in the industry. So, Kasha, tell us about creative, about media, informed by data. Let's welcome Kasha Cacy. Thanks, Kasha.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you for having me here to talk about something that is truly a passion of mine, and that is how science can drive art. I am not claiming to be Da Vinci, but I have, throughout my career, always had one foot planted in science with the other foot planted in art. I am proud to say that I was one of the original girls who code. Before that term even came into the culture, I was working at Accenture on information systems way back in the day when that was hardly a sexy thing for a woman to do. But less than a decade after that, I was building marketing strategies and creative briefs for some of the great creative minds in the industry at places like Ogilvy and at McCann. Which is why I am so excited about what is happening in the industry right now. We have unprecedented amounts of data. We have data about consumers. We have data about what they're doing. We have data about what they're buying. And the best part is, for the first time in history, we have the capability to link all those data sets together and really see the entire ecosystem from beginning to end. I think there is tremendous opportunity in this ecosystem. I've done a few interviews in the past year where I've said, I feel like we're in kindergarten when it comes to this stuff. And I don't mean it to be derogatory. I actually mean there is so much potential and there's so much innovation on the horizon when it comes to what data is going to bring to this industry that I think that when we look back in 2 and 3 and 5 years, we're going to think what we're doing now is pretty rudimentary. But those rudimentary things that we're doing, I think, can show the potential. And if you think about doing some of these things at scale, I think it's going to revolutionize the industry. So what I'm going to do today is show you a few of those things and then talk about what I think we need to do to push forward on this as an industry. So the first thing I think that this data is going to give us is it's going to enable us to learn things about consumers that we could only hypothesize about before. When you can combine consumer information with marketing information, with sales information, we're going to start to see why people buy different products, what motivates that, and what triggers that in completely new ways. I'm going to tell you a story about a project we worked on for J&J. Now, Rogaine is a brand that we work on with J&J, and a few years ago, we built an integrated data ecosystem that took customer data with marketing data and sales data. Now, before we had built that ecosystem, all the information we had up until that point led us to believe a few things about Rogaine. The first was that the people who buy Rogaine are middle-aged men in their late 40s and 50s who are balding. And that those men have passions like sports, they read a lot of sports content, they view a lot of sports programming. So like any agency would, we developed a media program that targeted those consumers in their passion points, i.e. sports. And it was all fairly straightforward until we put the program in market, and we started to see what was happening in that data ecosystem. And a couple weeks into putting the program in market, the team came to me and they said, something really weird is happening. The people we thought were going to buy the product aren't. And a totally different set of consumers are actually one making purchases. And I'll confess to you right now, I didn't believe them. I actually sent them back to do more analysis because I couldn't possibly believe that we were so wrong, and yet we were. The people who buy Rogaine are actually much younger men. You wouldn't necessarily look at them and think they're balding, but they've seen a few hairs fall out, and they don't want to go bald. So they buy Rogaine to keep from balding. Completely different consumer, completely different way of reaching them. We needed a new strategy. And luckily, we had a great client who, when we told them this, said, okay, scrap that program, let's do one that works. And here's the program that we actually put in market.
Rogaine was marketed as a dad brand, but when we analyzed the early results, we discovered most of the men responding to our campaign were single and in their 20s and 30s. This was game-changing. To grow sales even farther, we pivoted our entire campaign within 6 weeks. Our new target was still proving themselves. Hair loss undermined their confidence. So we hit these themes head on with a new content series, Grow Your Game. We partnered 5 real guys with men's health experts and gave our audience an insider's look into all their coaches' tips, advice, and their daily struggles in real time. Over 300,000 visited the Grow Your Game hub with an overall return user rate of 31%, more than 2 million YouTube and video views, and 38.8% increase in purchase intent, crushing the industry norm of 6.3%. Grow Your Game won an Effie and was named highest ROI vehicle by MMA. And all 5 of our guys came through the program brimming with confidence and hair.
So what I love about that is we never would have gotten to that program if we didn't have a whole bunch of data signals telling us that everything we basically knew was completely wrong. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is an example of how just combining some data sets that previously hadn't been combined can give you some really interesting insights. So everybody does social media monitoring, and most social media monitoring will tell you, is sentiment good or is sentiment bad? What we've started to do is link social media monitoring with some technology that IBM Watson has developed so that we can understand specific emotions around all that social media activity. And it's told us a lot of really interesting things. We can figure out what are the emotions around brands and what emotional territory do brands sit in. But we can also understand where are emotions peaking and dipping as we put marketing activities into the market on behalf of our clients. So we have an example from Hershey of where this was really useful. You can imagine that the holiday season is really important for a candy maker like Hershey. And the Reese's brand, like they do in Easter and Halloween, issues a special holiday Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. And so they put the Christmas tree-shaped Reese's Peanut Butter Cup in market. And to our shock and dismay, what we saw spike was disgust, which is not the emotion you want to drive around the holidays around your candy product. And we looked into it, and this is what we found. Nobody liked the shape of the trees. It's very sad. But the fact that we saw it, we knew the emotion behind it, and we knew what was driving it, enabled us to very, very, very quickly work with the creative and digital agencies to come up with a response and save the holiday season. Data driving creativity. This next example is not one that my agency did, but I saw it at Cannes. I judged Cannes this year, and saw a couple, I wouldn't say a lot, I'd say a couple of really interesting ways that science and data drove creativity. And this was one of my favorites. So I'm going to set this up. Anybody who's been to the UK or maybe spent a semester abroad there like I did will know that there are a few, and there really aren't that many, beautiful summer sunny days. And on those days, the tradition is you go to the bar with your friends and you drink a Pimms. And what you really don't want to be doing on that 1 or 2 beautiful summer sunny days that they have in the UK is wandering from bar to bar trying to find a seat for you and your mates. So this is what Pimms did. Pimms put beacons in a series of bars and used the beacons to monitor how crowded the bar was and which bars had seats available and which ones didn't. And then they used weather data to trigger dynamic outdoor ads telling people where the closest bar with available seats was so they and their friends could go get a Pimms. And I just think it's so smart and it's such a creative use of really simple data that's out there to drive a completely different way of connecting with consumers and, more importantly, driving consumption. My final example of this is another case study that I saw in Cannes. I was happy to see it was done by a sister company of ours, FCB in Germany. The Hockey Club of Davos had a problem that lots of sports teams have, which is ticket sales don't really support the team and the business. So they need to sell lots of refreshments and food and merchandise in order to boost their sales and profitability. And they came up with this really cool way of using a brand new data set that they invented to drive merchandise sales. And I'm going to show you a video of that.
Hockey Club Davos is the most successful Swiss ice hockey team with currently 31 championship titles. But financially, the club is still highly dependent on merchandise and catering sales.
Dieses Jahr haben wir probiert, Interaktivität ins Publikum hineinzubringen und zudem unsere Fanartikelumsätze und Cateringumsätze im Stadion steigern.
During the match, players crash into the rink panels around 100 times. The idea was to turn the rink panels into bingo fields. And in doing so, a new and entertaining game is born. Rink Bingo. Every panel was equipped with sensors. When a player crashed into the rink panel, the panel number was directly transmitted to the stadium queue and to all smartphone users. With the Rink Bingo app, the fans were able to play live and in real time during the matches, even at home via a second screen. Winners were directly informed and rewarded with merchandise vouchers or 2-for-1 offers. The game significantly increased traffic and concession sales by encouraging more people to visit the bars and the fan shop.
Wanderbingo ist bei uns ein riesen Erfolg. Die Leute im Stadion sind begeistert. Die Umsätze an den Bars, Cateringständen und Fanshops sind sensationell gewesen. Und die ganze Maßnahme ist ein riesen Erfolg für den HC Davos.
Rink Bingo. How a small game brought more fun to the big game.
So I love that example because I'm not sure which came first, whether they decided to create a data set that drove a creative strategy or whether they had a creative strategy that then drove a new data set. And that brings me to the things I think we need to do if we're going to push the industry out of kindergarten and potentially into middle school, or dare I say, even high school. The first thing I think we need to look at is how are we going to integrate all of this as different data? And I don't think we're having a real conversation around this now. I think there's a holding company point of view, I think media partners have a point of view, and I think clients, some of them have a point of view. But at some point, we are going to need to figure out how do we all come together and bring the data that is going to help us understand every piece of the marketing ecosystem together in a way that we can all leverage it and all use it. So I think that's going to be a big hurdle, but I'm hoping we can have those tough conversations and push forward in this area. The second thing we need to do is integrate teams. We are incredibly siloed as an industry. We have a specialty agency for anything you can imagine that has to do with marketing. But I believe that real creativity and real innovation comes, and I've seen it happen, when you integrate the engineers and the analysts who understand the data with the creative folks who can figure out innovative, amazing, creative, in-market ways to use it. And I think that's really important. And then finally, if we're going to integrate teams, we need to work in a different way. If we're going to put engineers and creatives and media planners and a whole bunch of different people in a room but still work in our siloed, linear process, we're not going to get where we need to go. I always tell people, I know when a team is really working when they look like a pile of puppies playing. If I walk into a room and we have a group of people who are laughing and smiling and building on each other's ideas, I know that amazing stuff is going to come out of those teams. And I think we have to get comfortable with the messy and complex and not totally clean way that we're going to have to work in order to drive real innovation. So I'm super excited about where this industry is going. I think there's a lot of work to be done. Those of you who work with me know I am relentless about pushing on some of those things I talked about. But there's real potential to transform how we connect with consumers, how we drive results for clients, how we measure that, and how we understand it. And I hope we'll all commit to doing the hard work that it's going to take to get us there. I'm totally optimistic about where this industry is heading. I hope you guys are too. Thank you so much.
Kasha, that was great. I think what we have here with Kasha is one of the real future media leaders. I mean, but combining data and creative and media knowledge, and you've got a very interesting, good, diverse background that's brought that all together that I think empowers you to do this. You know, we spoke also this morning with Erwin about the future of media agencies, and we talked a little bit about Omnicom, and they're evidently doing a couple of things. One is they are also mashing up creative, but at the same time they're not taking fees supposedly, or or they're not taking any commissions.
Right.
What's your sense on those fee structures? Do you think that is real? Do you think it goes forward? Do you think it changes?
For me, what's really important and why the science is important to me is because I think what we have to do as an industry is get more and more precise about how what we're doing is driving a result for a client.
Right.
So I think what clients want to pay for is a business result, not
KPIs,
a team of people that cost X amount of money.
Right.
So
like billing per hour as opposed to KPIs.
Yeah. So
right.
the reason I push hard on the data is because it helps us understand that, improve that. And what I've seen is it becomes this virtuous cycle, is that if you can prove the creativity works, you do more creative things, but you need those two hand in hand in order to really make a step forward. And I think that's important.
On the payments, see where that evolves. I mean, do you?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of pay-per-performance models.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of that. I think it ties you really closely to what a client cares about.
And if you have the metrics, you
and
both
if you
can look at
have
the
the right
metrics.
systems in place, you can do that.
Right.
So I think the more we can move to that place, the better off we're all going to be.
Excellent. Kasha Cacy, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for this. Wonderful.
Thank
Give her a
you.
big hand. Thank you. Please.